Function over form.
Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about some Victor items, tier lists for Victor items, I guess. Some items are self-explanatory, some items I'll try to explain as much as I can in detail. And this is just my personal opinion, I guess. This is what I feel is really good after several thousand games on Victor. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. I will start from the top tier, and from number they're not in any order necessary, just in preference, I guess. And even then, it's really up to you. It's up to the situation to see what's really good or what's really bad, or what's better in those situations. Number one, Luden's is pretty self-explanatory. I think between Luden's and Liandry's, I personally prefer Luden's just because of how much more more agency he gives. You get move speed, you get burst. Sometimes you can just pop someone off from off vision. The M pen is also very under. I feel like not a lot of people talk about the magic pen that it gives. It's six. It's six. I believe it's six magic pen flat on Ludens itself, and then the mythic bonus is 5 per completed item. The thing about M pen on Victor, or I guess in general, is that it helps on almost everything that has magic pen. Obviously, it is much more relevant in the early game compared to the late game, because when it's the late game, 20 or 20 flat M pen is not going to do much against 80 magic resist, right? So that's when Void Staff comes in. But at least in the early game, having like an additional 11, maybe even like 16 magic pen, should you get 3 items at 20 minutes, like I do most of the time, it's really effective. It's also really effective against towers when you want to split push. Because yes, magic pen does also affect turrets. Should you be playing split push Victor, as if you notice in some of my videos, especially if I go Luden's, Sork Shoes, and also Lich Bane. The magic pen really helps a lot. And I think that's about it. Yeah, like move speed is also really nice. Having the burst is really nice. That's about it. That's really about it for Luden's. For Liandry's, I like the item. I think it's actually surprisingly Liandry's will actually do slightly more damage with your whole combo. With your entire damage, like if you record it, it will actually do more damage than Luden's. If you let it run its whole course. But that's the difference. I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? Like Liandry's will always have slightly more damage overall, but Luden's will always have more burst. That's kind of how both the items are kind of designed. If that makes sense. So, Liandry's is really good if the enemy has slightly more health stackers. Champions that build health. Champions I can think of are Silas, Vladimir, sometimes Cassidon if they go for Everfrost. Maybe even Galio is not bad, since naturally he has more health. And overall, other champions, in top jungle, mid support, or support AD, where they kind of have more health. I think Liandry's is not bad. I also think Liandry's is much better if you're trying to focus more on team fights instead of trying to pick off the enemy on your own, which I think Victor excels a lot on. I just personally prefer Luden's, mainly because I can have more movement, I can have more M pen, and I really like those two stats. And also the fact that I can just pop someone, and it synergizes really well with Lich Bane, and also the fact that I can split push more effectively compared to Liandry's. Liandry is really good though. I think like you probably get much more consistent results if you're just starting out to play Victor. If you're just starting out to play Victor, I think building Liandry is probably much better than Luden's. But that's just my opinion. Moving on, Void Staff, just a really good item overall. Even though after, like, I think a lot of people will be like, oh wow, after the changes in 12.10 where the durability change happened, Void Staff lost its value. I think of quite the opposite. Same with Ludens with M-Pen. It's not like you're losing more damage. It's just things are slightly more tankier, which I think it's more incentive to build more pen faster. Hence why I always tend to get Void Staff third item instead of Rabadon's third item. I used to get Rabadon's second item, but after like doing more numbers, doing more testing in the training mode, I realized that Void Staff is actually really, really, really good as an item. Even if the enemy doesn't build MR, the thing about a lot of players is that, well, it's like, oh hey, the enemy has no MR, I don't have to build Void Staff. But here's the thing: I have many, many games where I would get ahead, right, and then the enemy would start building MR. But here's the next thing: I know the enemy would start building MR, or like, here, I'll break it into two stories. Before, I would start to build Rabadons, right? And then the enemy would start to build like some small amount of MR, and I would feel like my huge amount of AP would not matter. It would matter, but it mattered less because they have some sort of MR. Now I would go for Luden, so my go-to build would always be Luden, Stork Shoes, Lich Bane, and Void Staff. This is my go-to build. And after a team fight, the enemy is like, oh shit, he has like a lot of damage. This Viktor is really ahead. Let me get MR. But here's the thing: I already have Void Staff. So the time when they're building magic resist, any items magic resist, Hex Drinker, that one, I don't know, Cow, the tank MR item, basically any magic resist item, right? It doesn't matter because I already have magic resist, or I already have Void Staff. So it's really like saying, oh, okay, I know I'm hit. It's also more prevalent in games when you are the only magic dealer, and if the enemy, or like in games where you have multiple magic dealers, getting Void Staff is so valuable. But in games where you're the only one, they have no, like, the enemy has very little counterplay. The fact that you've already gotten Void Staff before they can get magic resist, right? Let me summarize it into one clear sentence, right? If you get Void Staff as soon as you can after your core components, it doesn't matter if the enemy is trying to get MR, because the time that they're trying to get MR, most of your fights you will win because you already have Void Staff. So they are wasting time. And the alternative is, well, okay, so should they go MR still? They could, but I'm already so much further ahead in the curve. It doesn't affect me. I'm already destroying them. It's what I'm trying to say. I hope this makes sense. It makes sense in my head. But if it doesn't, leave your thoughts in the comments so I can try to answer it a bit more. Moving on, we have Zhonya's. I used to think Zhonya's is a really bad item. I was really wrong. This item is actually really insane for, the very obvious reason. It negates death, right? It negates death. It blocks key abilities such as Vex's R, Zed's R, Dianar's R. Let me think of anything else. Sometimes you can even use it to block Renata ult, or like dodge Renata's ult. But mainly, it's the fact that every 90 seconds, and if you take like Cosmic Insight less than that, you can block one crucial ability. It's basically your get out of jail free card, right? It also provides pretty good stats. It used to provide much better stats, but the main reason is because Viktor has no good mobility abilities. He has no dashes. If you're in a really sticky situation, if you get caught, like if the enemy lands a really good ability on you and you need like a way out, Zhonya's is very, very consistent. Hence why I put it in the tier 0 rather than tier 1. I think Lich Bane is not bad as an item. And it works really well. It works pretty well with Viktor. Obviously less so than other champions. It worked well with Viktor mainly because, Viktor's Q. But before I get to Lich Bane, let's go over the tier 1 items, right? Tier 1 items, Shadowflame. I think this item it's somewhat overrated. I like it. The 20 pen is really good. The 200 health is also really good. 100 AP is also very good. My only problem with this item is the fact that the magic pen is not rooted directly onto your damage, but rather it depends. It's only rooted in the enemy champions. Let me try to explain in the way where where you can understand. So for those of you who've been playing for quite a while, they use there's an item, or like for those of you who haven't been playing, and if you know, you know, there used to be an item called Oblivion Orb. It's still in the game, but that item used to give you flat, I believe, 15 magic pen. It used to give you flat 15 magic pen, which means it's almost the same as Stork Shoes, where it gave you 18 pen, but obviously 3 less, but it would always stick onto you. Now, the problem with Shadowflame is that if I'm hitting any other thing aside from an enemy champion, that 20 magic pen does not exist for me. I'm only getting 200 health and 100 AP. I'm pretty sure those are the stats. But I don't get, like, if I'm hitting a turret, or if I'm hitting neutral camps, I'm not getting that 20 or 10 to 20 magic pen, right? I think it's fine, because of the stats it gives. I just wish it kind of gave you flat 10 and then increased based on the enemy champions you do, instead of like only solely relying on dealing champions. That's my only issue. It's not really a big issue. That's just my preference. Overall, it's a good item. I feel like it's a mix between 200 health gives you some health stats, defensive health stats. The magic pen gives you offensive health stats. I feel like it's a mix between Lich Bane and Zhonya's, kinda. If you don't need Zhonya's, if you don't want to get Lich Bane, I think second item, Shadowflame is not that bad. Moving on, Lich Bane. Oh, Lich Bane. I have so many conflicts about you. But recently, I've tried to use you, or I've tried to build you a lot more, and I think it's not that bad. I think Lich Bane, I think a lot of people have, like, I think it's like half and half. I've seen some people build it early because they like the burst. I've seen some people build it late because they say you need more AP to make this item work. I built it early because I feel like there's not really a better item like compared to, like, the only second good items I feel like it's Zhonya's, Shadowflame, and Lich Bane. I think I'll talk about this more later. I think Cosmic Drive is also a really good item on Viktor. But I feel like it kind of, like, it's actually a really good item. I'll talk about this later. But for now, I think like the second items for Viktor will always be Zhonya, Shadowflame, Lich Bane, and sometimes, some really rare times, Void Staff. I think Lich Bane, the stats it gives is pretty good. I believe it gives 75 if not 80, 10%, 10 ability haste, and about 10 or 8 movement speed. I forgot if they nerfed it. It doesn't give mana anymore, but the Spellblade effect is really good, especially if you go for Luden's. Like I said earlier, the combo with Luden's passive and also Lich Bane's Spellblade is really good. You sometimes can just burst someone off the map, especially later on in the game when you have much more AP from Gathering Storm, and also if you build the Deathcap, you will definitely one-tap someone with just your Q with these two items, Luden's and Lich Bane. It's a really pure glass cannon offensive item. If you want to snowball and also you want to split push, the Spellblade definitely helps. So that's just my take on Lich Bane. And the fact that like you, most of the time, I feel like Viktor really relies on items a lot more. And items that deal direct damage, such as Luden's, Liandry's, Demonic Embrace, Lich Bane. These items are really good for him. Viktor on his own has a lot of damage, but the thing about Viktor is that most of his damage is like, it comes in first, primary and secondary. E1 primary, E2 secondary, Q1 primary, Q2 secondary. Our initial burst primary, then the tick damage is secondary. So having good burst from these items, it really helps a lot. Moving on, Demonic Embrace. I think after the patch from 12.10, I think matching the double masses is really good. You can see a lot of the item pairing, or like this is built on a lot of pro games. I think it's not bad. I've tried it. It's pretty good, especially if you're against like a lot of tanky champions or health stacking champions. Having Liandry, so I think like if you build Liandry's, your second item should always almost be Demonic Embrace. I think the two just pairs up really well. You will have a lot of DPS without being, and while also being slightly tankier. You won't have burst, but again, you will have a lot more DPS. Your damage over time would just go insane. And then most of the time you will just you could just drop your ult, drop your E, don't even bother dropping Q or W, and just like run around like somewhere else, and you'll be fine in the fight. You'll be dealing a lot of damage. Trust me, I've done it before. It's a good combo. It's a good pairing. Just like how Luden's is a good pairing with Lich Bane, I think Demonic Embrace is a good pairing with Liandry's. I also think if you build Liandry's, your second item could also be Shadowflame or Zhonya's. But this is how I see things. If you have Liandry's, you would go for either Zhonya's, Shadowflame, or Lich Bane. If you have Liandry's, you would go with Zhonya's, Lich Bane. I keep messing it up. Here it is. If you have Luden's, you will go for Zhonya's, Shadowflame, and Lich Bane. If you have Liandry's, Zhonya's, Shadowflame, and Demonic Embrace is pretty good. But that's for Demonic Embrace. Moving on, we have Mejai Soulstealer. Now, some of you might be like, well, why is this here? Like, it's only good if you have stacks, right? But so I'm just gonna assume that if you have full stacks of Darksteel, getting Mejai's is actually pretty good, mainly because of, again, the value on its own is really good. But in addition, having extra move speed, I believe you get like 10%, which is pretty insane on Viktor. You will move really, really fast, especially with your Q+. So I think on its own, like, the item on its own is just really good. There's not really much to say about it, aside from the fact that, like, if you have full stacks on Darksteel, just get it. It's really good. You could also not, like, if the enemy has, like, a lot of things that can dive you, you're afraid of losing on stacks, that's fine. You don't have to get it, but I think if you're really confident, getting this item is really good. Moving on, tier 2 items. Alright, so, Rabadon Deathcap. My favorite item. I used to love this item a lot, but now I've thought of it otherwise because of how the game works, and also I think the recent I'm not sure if they changed it recently. I think it's more due to the durability patch. But the thing about Rabadons is, I think even though the value it provides is pretty good, it's not a must-have on Viktor. This item solely provides damage. Like, it solely provides damage, which is not that bad, right, on Viktor, because you ultimately you are a carry. But compared to things like negating death, like Zhonya's, having magic pen like percent magic pen like Void Staff, and also I guess like you could say like the secondary items, the tier 1 items such as, you know, health percent damage, Demonic Embrace, the Spell Blade, like slit pushing, like for Lich Bane, and on you have the half and half like Shadowflame. You might think like, oh well, why don't you just put it in tier 2? That the reason is because this item is a bit expensive. It's 3,600. For understandably its stats that it gives, right? It stacks AP on top of AP, but it's just hard for you to like. If I'm okay, so paint this picture. If I'm playing Viktor, and if I want to get this third item, it is 600 more than most of the tier 1 items. 600 more is about, I believe, 6 waves, maybe 5 waves later in the game, right? 5 or 4 waves, depending on if there's cannon, and then that's like 2 kills, right? Now, obviously, you could say, well, you could get shutdowns, but shutdowns are not consistent, right? If I'm going into a, let's say, dragon fight or baron fight even at around like 22 minutes, most of the time I would always have 3 items with my mythic, second item, and void staff. Most of the time. But if I'm going for Rabadons, I won't have 3 items by that timing. I would have to snowball really hard to get that items in 3 items. Those 3 items at around 22 more or less minutes, right? Again, I like the item. This item will let you one shot the entire wave with just 1 E, melee or casters. But it's just a bit too expensive, and realistically, other items, if you build it, the damage is like off by like what, 10%? I've done the numbers, like 10-15%. Which realistically, if you're not going to one shot with this whole item on its own, it's much better to just get Void Staff and also second and you know, the second item. Because like the comparison is always like, okay, should you get Void Staff or should you get Rabadon Deathcap? One gives you insane amount of AP, one gives you flat magic pen. Or not flat magic pen, percent magic penetration. For 800 gold less, always go for the percent magic penetration. Because, again, like I said earlier, when the enemy starts building a bit of MR, even if you have Rabadon Deathcap, it just feels really, really bad. It's like, oh shit, they have, I don't know, Hexdrinker, or even worse, they have more Maul Memorius. Damn, I can't deal damage because I don't have percent pen. They're just gonna, like, it doesn't matter if you have 700 AP, it doesn't matter because they have just that one goddamn magic resist item. That's just how the game works, alright? Don't blame me, alright? Blame the designers, alright? But yeah, that's just my thought on Rabadon Staff. I think it's a really good item. You know, if you have, like, if you're snowballing, if you have like 10 kills by 20 minutes, go wild, right? Go ahead. So let's just move on. Chemtech Putrifier. Let me show you guys the tech, right? This, I think it's been done in a couple of pro games, but I've seen this and I picked it up. Imagine if the enemy has, like, I don't know, Swain, Volibear, Aatrox, I don't know, Swain, Volibear, Aatrox, Samira, Soraka / Yumi. A lot of healing, just a lot of healing, right? Now, I don't recommend going for this tech, but if you must, like, if you have to be the anti-healer on your team, right? You could, right? And this only works because of Viktor's W+, W upgrade passive. So, Chemtech Putrifier works in a way that if you heal someone, that someone will get anti-heal on their next ability or attack. I'm not sure if it's just attacks, but I think it's also abilities. And you're like, okay, well, Viktor doesn't heal anyone. Okay. So, the way you do this is you go Font of Life. Font of Life is a rune in Resolve. It's a secondary, it's like a, yeah, it's a rune in Resolve where if you slow someone, right, if you impair someone, if you, yeah, like movement impair someone, your allies who auto attack that impaired person will heal. So the way you would do this is that you probably have to go Aerie because you need mana flow for sure. You can't really go for a strike with this build. So you go Aerie, you know, mana flow, Transcendence, Celerity, Absolute Focus, whatever, and then Gathering Storm on the first rune. And then the second rune probably Font of Life with probably Bone Plating. Right? Bone Plating or some other thing would also be fine. It really depends. But Bone Plating seems really consistent. So Font of Life, Bone Plating, and then you would just build this. You could build the Oblivion Orb first, and then only finish it when you have your third upgrade, your W upgrade. The reason why I put this on top of or above Morellonomicon is because I feel like Morellonomicon, even though the stats are really great, Chemtech Putrifier just does its job much better, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper, and again, it does, like, the condition to fulfill the mega heal cut, the 50%, I believe, if not 40%. It's just much easier. You just have to heal someone, and then they just get it. For Morellonomicon, you have to hit them until 50%. Which, if you're behind, it's really hard. Even if you're, like, even, it's also really hard, right? The stats it gives on Morellonomicon is great, it's amazing. It's just, it's so hard to get to that mega heal cut, right? You can get heal cut easily. You hit someone, right, or 25%. But to get on Morellonomicon, to get mega heal cut, it's so hard. It's so hard. For Chemtech Putrifier, oh, Font of Life. My teammates hit it. They heal. They get the Chemtech Putrifier mega heal cut. It's that simple. It's also why, like, many AP supports would just build this because it's just so convenient. Obviously, it's like they have heals and shields, but it's not bad. If the enemy has, like, everyone has combat healers where they have to heal, or like they are forced to heal and they can't wait or they can't wait out the heal cut. They're forced to heal. I think going for this build is not bad, hence why tier 2 on Chemtech Putrifier. Moving on to tier 3, Morellonomicon. Okay, guys, hear me out. It's a good item. It's not bad if the enemy has a lot of healing. The stats it gives are insane. 90 AP, 300 health, and I think that's about it. For like 25 gold, it's pretty insane. It's pretty insane. It's probably one of the better items compared to the rest of the items here. again, it's I don't think it's bad as a heal cut item, but like I said, because Chemtech Putrifier exists and you can do the Font of Life tech with your W upgrade or W plus, um, there's really no reason for you to do this. Anyways, so Banshee's Veil, pretty self-explanatory. If the enemy has like Malphite or anything that is like, hard engage, I think sometimes using Hecarim is not bad. I just think the problem with Banshee's Veil, like most spell shields, it's not on demand. It's always on you. So if the enemy has like anything that can just pop it easily from far range, it's kind of useless. Even as an MR item, I don't really feel like it's a great MR item unless the enemy has like triple magic threats. Then sure you can justify by building this, but realistically, I think it's kind of a poor item. On Viktor, it's hard for you to defend yourself from the enemy breaking the spell shield. Is what I'm trying to say. It's not bad. It's just I won't build it as often. You rarely see me build it. Cosmic Insight. Love this item. Hate to build it. Mainly because it gives you a lot of utility, but it doesn't really give you damage, I guess. It gives you a lot of movement speed, a lot of cooldown. Actually, no, it gives you some damage because it gives you a lot of AP as well. And the value for it is actually pretty insane. I just haven't really found like any benefits, or like I haven't really seen any benefits from building this item. I think it's a pretty insane item on Viktor, actually. A lot of cooldown, Viktor likes that. A lot of movement speed, Viktor likes that. A lot of AP, Viktor likes that. Honestly, half the time I built this as a 6 item to replace boots. Because it also gives movement speed. But honestly, I really don't know where to place this. Aside, like I really don't know what to say this. Aside from the fact that like it gives you a lot of benefits. It gives you a lot of value, in terms of stats. And that's it. If you guys have success with this, obviously like continue building it. But I think like for my money, I would always go with the tier 1, tier 0, and tier 1 items, and occasionally tier 2 items. Moving on, Archangel staff. It's a mana item, I don't really build this item like, oh, I want to be tankier, I want to heal. Not really. You don't really heal as much with this item. You heal, but it's barely noticeable. I would say. It's barely noticeable. The health is great. The AP is great. The cooldown is great. It's just hard to fit it in. This item is just hard to fit it in. Obviously, if you're having mana issues, sure, build a tier, go into this. But realistically, if you're having mana issues, you would just build a tier and never finish this whole item. I think it's an okay item. Just don't really like it. It's just my opinion. So if you want to build it, if you feel like you need the mana for it, which I don't think Viktor has mana issues, you could build it, but it's like, why not just build something else from tier 1, tier 0? Moving on, we'll move on to the niche items. Crown. Oh Crown. When you first came out, I'm like, this item seems pretty strong. I had a lot of mixed opinions about this item, but as time went on, I felt like this item was just pretty bad. It's good in very niche situations, like very, very niche situations. It's not bad. If you're against like Rengar, especially against Rengar, right, where he just jumps on you and he has to do a lot of front load damage against you, it's not bad. If you're against, I guess, Evelyn, it's also not bad. But realistically, those other champions, you could, like, for Rengar, you could go Ninja Tabais or Student Plate Caps. That one item will always counter Rengar. Will always counter Rengar, because his whole damage is on Q, right? And his Q is an on hit. And hence why Student Plate Caps will always counter Rengar. Or Plated Steel Caps will always counter Rengar. But on the topic of Crown, the problem I have with this item is, although it gives you a lot of value, and most of the time it actually does its job pretty well, that similarly like Banshee's Veil, it just pops easily. That's why I'm not sure if I should put Banshees like around here or here. The only reason why I put it up here is because I feel like in more situations you could get this rather than this. Hence why I put this in more niche. It's really easy for you to pop it. Maybe if they made Crown into like an active item for, like, let's say like, oh, if you active it, the next 3 seconds you get X amount of damage reduction. And then something else. maybe it'll be a good item, but if it's like a passive where it becomes like a spell shield and then it can just be easily popped by, let's say, Misfortune's, I believe, E, it's kind of bad. I just don't see it on Viktor as often. It's like if you want to build a mythic, just these two will always be very consistent, very very consistent. For Everfrost, I actually like Everfrost. I just feel like ever since the durability patch update, building Everfrost kind of feels like shit. You kind of need the M pen or the Liandry's passive to help you do damage. The only good thing about Everfrost, like why the reason why I put it in niche is again like against like anything that is like very that runs to you in a straight line, that beelines to you. Things like Singe, Rek'Sai, Evelyn sometimes, even LeBlanc. Mostly melee champions that wants to run to you. Everfrost can stop them in their tracks. And then it also complements really well with your gravity field. It also complements really well with most of your abilities because gravity field will always stuck if you hit them with Everfrost root. It's not bad for its gold. I believe it's like 2,800, right? For its gold, for how much it costs, it's okay. Same like they're both the same cost, Crown and Everfrost. I just don't see myself building this as much as I did as before because I feel like every time I build it, I just don't do. I can't carry hard enough compared if I build tier 0 items. Maybe if you play Viktor as more of a supportive role, sure I can see it, but why would you play it in the supportive role? You know why? And then we move on to the low tier, the Wido and go to jail. Listen, all right. I hate this item. I hate what is this? I forgot what is this even called. I know the passive is called Hyper Shot. But I hate this item. This item right here. This makes no sense. Why would you build this item compared to Shadowflame? The enemy will always have MR. They will always have MR. So why would you build this? And so, like, okay, fine. The argument could be like, I'm talking about this in general. The argument could be like, oh, okay, they have a lot of invisibility champions. There's only a few invisibility champions that you need to gain true sight. I don't even think this thing gives true sight. Alright? It gives ability haste. Okay. Sure, I guess. But, ability haste is like eventually you hit a point of like where it will have a diminishing return. So look, I'm just saying this, right? Why would you build this instead of this? Why would you build this item instead of Shadowflame as your 3k item? Okay? Don't play on hit Viktor, it sucks. I might do a video on this Riftmaker item with Demonic Embrace, but until that happens, don't build this item. You might even go to jail. I might even put you in jail here. And for guys, see, I don't even remember these items. I don't remember what this item is called, but there's really no point. You don't get mana. It's basically Luden's, but just much worse. Like my problem with this item is always like, why does it deal burst damage, but it doesn't give M pen? Can you imagine if like they swap these two? Like this gives M pen, this gives magic resist. Oh man, this would be such a good item. This would be such a shit item. But yeah, this is my problem with this, and also it doesn't give mana, right? Doesn't give MR, doesn't give M pen. There's no point. No, just no. Alright, just why? Why? Go to jail. Don't play support Viktor. Don't build this. Don't play support Viktors. No point. Play Swain if you want to build this. Go to jail, right? Like, why would you? You have enough movement speed, right? You don't need to boost your whole team. You're not Sivir. Honestly, I should make a new tier for this. If you do this, yeah, like just don't. Okay, just don't do it. Might give me a heart attack at night if I see this in a build. I've heard someone built this as support Viktor and then they would upgrade their W first. Why? Why? What's the point? You might as well just build this instead. If you're trying to CC them, if you want to do more damage, just I don't know, build this. That's why. You won't have the money. Just go to jail. And I've already talked about this. So yeah, wow, 34 minutes. That's a lot. But this is the tier list for items on Viktor. I hope you guys are able to learn something here. Leave your thoughts in the comments if you have questions. I will definitely reply to all of them. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.